Bonjour, Nino Gichida. My name is Kathy Chavers. I am the tribal chairwoman of the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa. I am also the president of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. I am here today to welcome you to the video that we are having this year. Due to the pandemic, we're unable to have a face-to-face meal and visiting and talking with you about your stories and things that you have to say and tell us. And so this year we're going to be doing our video, and we are also going to be mailing out cards with some money in them for you. We regret not being able to see you, but because of safety concerns with our veterans and our warriors, that we want to make sure that you're safe. Thank you all for your service and your families, because your families also played a huge part in your military careers also, but also the sacrifices that you made yourself and for those that didn't make it back also.
Bonjour, my name is Diana Goodsky, and I want to welcome you to the Boys Fort RTC Veterans Day event. I know things are a little different this year, has been for these last year and a half with COVID, but here we are. I'm actually in the state of Virginia, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am the daughter of Jean and Arlene Goodsky, and I joined the Navy in 1980 when I was 18 years old. It was, at the time, I remember thinking that I would stay in for as long as I could. I'm not even sure I had a definite time frame, but I ended up being able to retire from the Navy in 1995. So I am the first woman from Boys Fort to retire from any military service, and I'm quite proud of that. But my tour of duties included several overseas locations, and at the time, women were not allowed on ships, but we did have the ability, I did have the ability to attend or go out to sea on a civilian manned ship. I was the only military personnel there in the Sea of Japan, and that was quite exciting. And I actually remember thinking that I'm really glad that I don't get to go on ships, because it wasn't really something that I like to do. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about, why we joined the military and what do we do with afterwards, and what is our legacy? Because I really believe that as people who are in service, people who decide to join up and serve our country, I think that we have a responsibility for allowing or letting others see what this life could be like, and also for encouraging our youngsters. I feel very strongly about encouraging our youngsters to join the military. But so anyway, when I joined in 1980, there were very few women active duty back at that time, and but that didn't deter me. I just, I knew I wanted to be in the military. And I want to share why I joined the military, actually. So my dad was a CB, you know Gene, and he was a CB. And when we were growing up, I hardly saw any females in the military. It was not a usual thing to see military women. So one day when I was 12, Dad was stationed in Great Lakes, and we had our payday run to the commissary and the exchange. And we were leaving that area when I saw my first woman in uniform. And let me tell you, it was such a big impression on me because she was walking so tall and so proud. And I just remember thinking, that's exactly what I want to be when I grow up. I just decided then and there that I was going to join the Navy. I didn't know much about it, to be honest. I didn't, because my dad was a Seabee, so I didn't know what the other parts of the Navy were like. So because the Seabees are a very different, component of the Navy. And I'll never forget signing on the dotted line and taking the oath. And there's about 11 or 12 people that were taking the oath down in Minneapolis around the same time. And as soon as we took the oath, I was signing. They gave me a pen, and I was signing the document. And I actually said to the guy, I said, "So how long am I doing this for?" Because I didn't care. I just knew I needed to be in the military. And Native Americans have we are the highest per capita that joined the military service. And I was very proud when I first heard that. Probably I was an E5 stationed over in Wales at the time. And I remember thinking, well, of course, because so many of you all, so many of the people that I've been exposed to have joined the military. And that makes a lot of sense. It also makes a lot of sense that we join the military because it's kind of it's our nature. I think that being a warrior and having that fighting spirit is basically something that is innate with us. And so it makes a lot of sense that we would serve our country. So, but one of the things that has always bothered me about this statistic is the next statistic is that Native Americans also stay in the least amount of time. I think the actual statistic is less than 4% stay in past their original 4 years. So we have the highest number of people that join and the lowest number of people that stay in. And I have my own personal theory about that. And this may resonate with you all. This may sound familiar to you all, but I think one of the biggest reasons that happens with Natives is that they miss home. It's such a such a big removal from their home and family that it's extremely difficult for them for people to feel really comfortable away from home and what we know. So not only is it a cultural shock, but it's a familial shock because our families are so important to us. And then these young kids will go out and, a lot of you are from Vietnam and you go to these hot places and this is so not like home. And then you're missing the family unit. And I think that's important because when we talk to our young ones about the military service, I think it's important to help them understand that it's not the same, but it can be a different kind of family. And I love the idea I think actually that's part of why I stayed in, why I was able to stay in longer. It was because my first duty station was very small. And we had I want to say, even with dependents, there were about 300 people in this, overseas. And so that forced us to really get to know each other. And I remain friends with many of those women that I was stationed with back in the early 80s at my first duty station, because we were able to form such a bond. And for you all, I've heard stories from my dad, from Floyd, from Uncle Wiz, and so many times y'all ran into each other when you were serving in Vietnam. And, it just blows my mind, to be honest. But I think that was all part of some kind of design plan that you saw each other and helped you feel better going through this rough time. But I guess that's neither here nor there. But my point being that the familial aspect of when military members get stationed, or join the military, that aspect is so strong for us as Natives and our family connection. It's such a huge deal that I think that these young children, because that's what they are, right? They're 18, they're children, right? So I think that it's hard to make that adjustment. So I want to, I'd like to kind of say to you all that, you know, we are so grateful for your service and for the sacrifices that you all made before us, because I certainly would not have made that decision had someone else not shown me what it was like to be in the military, or even what it was like to, you know, live off the reservation and be okay with that. And I think that the military offers some pretty good benefits, but also just expanding our worldview and being able to teach our young children about the ability to expand their worldview and to learn about different cultures, meet different people. And I think that it's important. It's very important for us to continue the legacy of that original statistic, which is, you know, we're the highest per capita that join. So I want to encourage you to talk to your young children, your grandchildren, and your children and your grandchildren, and encourage them to continue the legacy. One of the saddest stories that I remember reading about was when somebody, their grandfather had passed away, and they were cleaning out the attic, and they found a box. And this box contained medals and memorabilia and newspaper articles, all about the grandfather who served in the war. And that young man was so very proud of his grandfather. But he was also very sad that his grandfather never shared any of that with him. And he didn't know. He didn't know the hardships that his grandfather went through. He didn't know the good times. He didn't know a piece of the history that was his grandfather, that actually, definitely, I'm sure you remember, you know, it drove the rest of your life, because the things that we learn in the military, absolutely, we bring them home. We bring the good stuff home. Sometimes we bring bad stuff home. Yes, absolutely. And I don't discount that at all. We definitely bring good and bad home. But this young man was not able to celebrate with his grandfather. He was not able to talk with his grandfather about the time in service. And so I want to encourage you all to share your stories. Tell your children and your grandchildren all about the crazy night in Hong Kong, or the time you went on a rescue mission, or the time your ship almost got, that time that you looked out of your ship and they were doing the atomic bomb testing. I mean, tell your children these stories, because they need to know you all did a beautiful, beautiful thing by serving your country and sacrificing. You were willing to put your life on the line. You sacrificed your family. You sacrificed time away from your family, and you deserve to have that connection to your young ones and allow them to see what a pretty darn good thing you guys did. So I personally want to thank you all for that. And I want to encourage you to absolutely talk to the kids. Don't let your stories end up in a box in the attic. That's a big deal for me. And it's one that's very important to me. I definitely encourage the veterans to stay connected to the veteran community. As you all, some might be aware, some may not, the veteran community is one of a kind. I mean, I know I'm a chief. By the way, I'm the first Native American female chief in the whole United States Navy. I made chief in 1991. It just blows my mind. And it never occurred to me, but that's been determined in the last few months, actually. But I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that Lake produced such fine examples of military members and led to, the first Native American female chief ever in the whole United States Navy. I that's a testament to the whole community. And I want to thank you all for, again, being leaders in that for me and for others. And but now I forgot my train of thought. Where was I? I'm not sure. But the other thing I want to encourage you to do, if possible, I still do talks with the military commands. And the thing that I talk about always is about being a Native American inside it's like a subculture inside the culture, another subculture of the Navy. That's a subculture of America, right? So, but the point being that it's important for people to understand who we are, how our mind works, why we're different. And I believe that allows the leadership to definitely be considerate, be more educated about why maybe Natives do the things the way that they do. You know, I mean, for example, when I was in A school, my foster brother passed on, and the Navy immediately said, well, you can't go home. You can't get emergency leave for that. I mean, Dad knew to call the Red Cross because, you know, that's what happens when you have a death in the family. That's how he knew that was the connection, or the way to go about making that making it happen, that I could come home on leave. But I was in A school, and my command said, no, you can't go home. That's just a foster brother. I was so offended. I was so shocked. I had no idea that the military could think just a foster brother. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do. So I'm an 18-year-old. I'm probably an E2 and just out of boot camp, and I didn't know what to do. So I, called my parents crying again and saying, I don't know what to do. And so my mom and dad got on the phone, got a hold of somebody at my command, and helped them understand how different the Native American family community is. And lo and behold, I was able to come home on emergency leave to attend the funeral. So the reason I want to tell that story is because part of our legacy is to continue to share and to help others. I think the only way we can help others is to tell stories like that, is to help people who are able to understand and therefore do some things differently, maybe. And maybe that would increase the ability for these young children to stay in the military and make a career out of it. Those of you who are familiar with the rank structure and the retirement structure and the disability, all the benefits that we have later on, oh my gosh, I mean, the military retirement, the military disability, these are all extremely nice benefits that allow us to live a life in a different manner than a lot of our contemporaries. And so I think that's extremely, I think that's important. I also think it's important to tell these kids all about that. Let them know that when they sign their enlistment contract, that they are absolutely guaranteed that they'll be taken care of the rest of their life. That's in the small print of their contract that none of us read. We didn't read that contract. Well, I don't know. I didn't read that contract. Did you read that contract? But most of us don't. We know what we're doing. We're signing up. I mean, except for me, I didn't know how long I was signing up for, but I mean, we're signing up and we're committing our life. Well, in the small print, that promise is that they'll take care of us. And that's a pretty nice guarantee. And one that, yes, we have to fight for it. The disability program it's not an easy thing. And, Natives have historically been late to make disability claims, because I think that's also part of our nature. We don't want to ask for help, and we don't want to ask for that kind of thing until we realize that, you know what, maybe some things did happen in the military that maybe I should be compensated. And so, sometimes it takes us years, Sometimes it takes us a little while, but just understanding that there are benefits that are, if something does happen in the military, that you'll be taken care of. So share with your children and grandchildren that, there's some really good reasons to join the military. Now, why am I talking about joining the military so much? I mean, obviously we all did. I mean, and, we did okay. And yes, again, we had some issues maybe, but hopefully we're getting help and we're getting taken care of. But the reason I do that is because I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that the number of young people joining the military now, in today, this is 2021, I think, 2021, yes. And the number of people joining in 2021 is vastly different from when you all joined. And, even when I joined, there were a few of us, but there were more than there are today. Why is that? Did they forget? Did we as a community forget that we love serving our country? What happened? I do not know. But I do know that if you look around, there are very few active duty relative to when you were in, even when I was in, and I think that's sad. I think that's sad because I think that we have I don't know, is it a duty? I'm not sure. An obligation? I don't know. But certainly we owe it to our families to share our service, and we owe it to the youth. We owe it to the youth. That's it. We owe it to the youth to be able to say to them, this is my military experience. This is why I think you might enjoy it. This is why I think you may not enjoy it, but I definitely want you to consider it as an option for your future. Because when I joined, this is what I liked about it. These are the benefits that I got out of it. These benefits are lifelong friendships, a steady paycheck, seeing the world, getting exposed to different cultures, learning a trade. I did anti-submarine warfare. I hunted Russian submarines. There was a time in my life where I could tell you every single piece of equipment on every single Russian submarine and what frequency they vibrated at in the water. That just blows my mind today because it's like so far out there. But that's what the military gives us. It gives us such a bounty of information. And it's all in the setting of a, pretty good community. The Navy is, if you allow the Navy to, or the military, I should say, the military, if you allow the military to become like a second family, it's a pretty darn good environment. So you owe it to these children to say, let's maybe consider this for your career, consider this for even if you just do the 3 or 4 years, learn about leadership, learn about sacrifice, learn about camaraderie, learn about friendship, learn something beyond your circle right here. And that's a beautiful gift. That's a beautiful gift. So please talk to the children, share everything that you can. Don't let your stories die in a box in the attic, and dig out your uniform, whatever you've got, and wear it proudly. Because, it's a time in our life that remains very, very special for most of us. And when we can grab onto that and we can say, you know what? I did that for my family. I did that for those that went before me and those that come after me. And it was one of the most outrageous, beautiful times of my life. Or it was the funniest, or it was, and these stories, there's stories. There's lots of stories that bring laughter, that bring joy, that bring happiness. Tell your stories. Talk to the children. Help them carry on your legacy. And I have no idea how much time has passed, but I think that should be it. So I want to thank you so very much for joining again. Thank you to the RTC and Doris for inviting me. I'm super grateful and super honored to speak in front of you all fine veterans that came before me, and hopefully that came after me as well. And I just want to thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for carrying on the legacy of the Native American warrior through the military service. Thank you so much.
The Army was founded on June 14th, 1775. The Army's mission statement is to deploy, fight, and win our nation's wars by providing ready, prompt, and sustained land dominance by Army forces across the full spectrum of conflict as part of the joint force. It clearly outlines its capabilities of defeating any enemy. The United States Army serves as a land-based branch of the United States Armed Forces. The Army must always be ready to defend the United States and its territories, support national policies and objectives, and defeat adversaries responsible for aggression that endangers the peace and security of the United States and our allies. The institutional Army has evolved around the Army's primary mission of providing forces with a wide range of land power capabilities that enable combatant commanders to dominate and sustain land warfare across the spectrum of operations. The Army therefore must recruit, organize, train, equip, supply, sustain, mobilize, and demobilize those forces, as well as construct, maintain, and repair facilities. To do all of that requires the right people and tools and the proper mix of intellectual and technological strength.
Bonjour, my name is Jerome Whiteman. My traditional name, Naval Bedindanas. I am of the Lynx clan from the Bois Forte Band of Indians. I am 73 years old. I graduated in 1966, and I've been off and on up here at Nett Lake all my life. Time spent working off the res from time to time, and I enjoy who I am, where I am. I like me, whether you do or not, I don't know. But I'm here to answer some questions or a little bit about my life, thoughts and views. Whether they're too politically correct or not is, I guess, isn't an issue with me, because like I said, I like who I am. And I hope you do too. And I hope I don't offend anyone. I'm not about to offend anyone. I don't try to offend anyone, but just live my life as I see fit, okay? With that, we'll get along just fine.
What branch were you in?
I was at the United States Army I got drafted back in 1968.
And how long did you serve, and where?
A little under 4 years. I was, when I got drafted, let's see, I'm trying to think. I had a stroke here some time ago, and I might forget some things that I should know, or you think I should know. But the medical issues kind of put the kibosh to some of the issues. So I might not be able to answer every question. Maybe I don't know the answer to it. You know, it's just a medical issue. Anyway, I got drafted in 1968, and I went to a place called Fort Campbell, Kentucky. From there, after basic training, I went to a place called Fort Eustis, Virginia, which is a transportation center on the eastern seaboard. I went into aviation, mechanic, flight crew, whatnot, training in that. So my aviation is my background as far as my service life was. I was always around aviation. From Fort Eustis, Virginia, I went to Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And there's quite a history down there, what with our white people and the Indians getting together and all that, having their parties. Oh yeah, I guess they had some good parties too once in a while, from what I hear about their history down there. Wow, those little Indians were badasses. Anyway, we don't want to go into that because I'll let the history books take care of that. And in my service life, I met a lot of nice people. They're from small town America, where I'm from, where I come from. And we had some kids that come in from the city, from Chicago, or the eastern seaboard from the Carolinas. And I enjoyed their company. The hillbillies, yeah, from eastern Tennessee, the way they talk. Then you get them guys in Boston, like you hear that commercial, my cousin's from Boston. And I met a lot of them kind of people too. So we're all together, small town America, bringing our issues together and laughing and poking fun at one another and lying to each other proudly. And I come from little old Nut Lake, Minnesota, up in a bush. And like I said, I ran into a lot of nice people from around this great country. And then from Fort Sill, I went across. Took off from San Francisco, Travis Air Force Base, San Francisco. Flew across to Hawaii, and a place called Wake Island. Then I believe it was to Guam. And then we landed. A place called Benoit. Benoit. We were there for about, I would say, a week to 10 days, where we mustered enough. Muster, that means gather. We mustered enough to get enough to form another company, because back in when I went in, every individual was either coming or going. And then you had to wait until others came in to form a company. And then you moved on to another place. It ain't like today, where like all the National Guard today comes in as a unit and leaves as a unit. We came in one at a time, until there was enough to move over here, to over there, to over there. That's the way it was back then. Now, I don't know if it's still like that, but like my son, he went in a couple of years ago, and that's what they did. But anyway, I must have spent about a year over there. And like I said, I had an aviation background, so for the most part, I don't know if I had it any easier than the most guys, because we all had our good times and bad times over there. It was something that'll stay with you for the rest of your life. And it's something you, like I said, you will never forget. Today I forgot a lot of things, but then there are different times it comes up in my life. I remember this, I remember this guy, I remember that guy. And the faces fade, as does the names. well, we're growing older. What the heck? But some of the guys, I remember like it was yesterday. And some of the guys I'd rather not remember. We run into people like that all the time, you know. As you heard some of the other, how would you say, news articles. Some of the guys that can remember what they did. Some of those don't want to remember. And let's look at a veteran today. From what I can gather, some of us don't want to hear about yesterday, what we did. Some of us want to leave it alone because that wasn't a very good time for us individually. And some of us, you get some of the guys that kind of BS'd along their line along the way. Oh, we did this, we did that, we did this. We come to find out they're not even a veteran. I ran into a few of them guys because they read about that in books. And those are the guys that just kind of go, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. In fact, like I said, I ran into a couple of them and I figured them out and I asked them where they were born at. Oh, and there are little tidbits of information where there's little cracks in their stories so you can kind of figure them out. And those are the kind of, I call them spineless, you know. I said, they're full of you know what. And you look at it right into their eyes. I mean, look at them, really look at it, right into their eyes with no expression whatsoever. And you can make them so nervous. You know darn well they're lying. And that's one thing I learned about my traits when I talk to someone. I look at it right in their eyes with no expression or anything. And that tells you right now what kind of an individual you're talking to. Whether he's straight, or they're trying to blow smoke up your rear end. And I just let it go. I don't say anything to them, but I can tell in my mind. And that's okay. You know, like I said, I don't hurt anybody. I don't go about to offend anyone today. I am who I am. And if I get along with me, fine. And if you like me, that's fine. And I'm okay with that. If you don't like me, that's fine too. Because I like me, and that's the most important thing in my life is me, because everything starts with me. Whether I go over here, go over there, enjoy time with you, or wherever. Because let's look at it. We're all individuals here, and it's up to us to make the best of what we have to offer. And a lot of us do have a lot of things to offer. Sometimes you got to pull it out. Sometimes you got to share it, and that's okay. That's just the way we are as people. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your time.
Anything else you want to say, or?
Well, there are some things I wished today, even though things are changing. I wished every young person, whether they're graduating from high school or just out of graduation or high school age, give some time of service to this country. Offer your services, because like I said, everybody's got something to offer. It might be small, it might be so minute you don't think of it in terms of offering something. But everybody's got a place here in this big world. And give some service to yourself. Be it a police officer, being at a state, government, or the military. Everybody's got something to offer. And if you put a couple of years into it to learn about you and how you're going to fit in, that'll make you a better person. That'll make us a better person, better people. That's just the way it is. Some are good teachers, some are good musicians, some are good police officers. You be in a service area of your life, you'll find it and you'll enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, well, hey, you're okay. You're going to do things that you want to do, you should do, and you're going to make a better person of yourself. Hence, that's going to be better people around. The more of us do that, we're going to be all right, rather than just doing things my own way. You do things your own way, you're going to find out sometimes you get into that little trap. Sometimes it might be a little goofy for you, and it don't work. And you get mad, you get angry. That's a sign. So, in retrospect, I wish every young person young people out there, there's a lot that's wondering what they want to do. Take a little time to reflect yourself. Take a little time. And always think this, there's always someone watching you. It's always willing to help you. You got to reach out. If you're stumbling, reach out. There's always someone there to help you, regardless of who it is or how you might think of them. Sometimes they'll give you a little piece of information or advice that you don't think about today, but tomorrow it'll come in handy. My grandma used to tell me, or my grandpa used to tell me also, that all that information that they're telling you, put them in your little purse, and one day you'll be able to dig it out and find out, and it'll work. It'll work for you. Any little situation works for you if you look at it. And the only thing that I have to say right now today, as my age is winding down, is be aware of the situation that come cropping up that we don't know it's right around the corner. Be strong enough to deal with it, okay? And be diligent, okay? And another one, last and most important, to do all these other things that I advise you to. Be brave. Do not be afraid to try something. Sometimes you stumble and you trip, and that's a part of life. That's a learning process. You learn that when you first start learning to walk. You fall down, you get mad, you get up, you get determined. Next thing you know, you're running around. So, with that, keep it up and keep going forward.
Okay, my name is Gary Donald. I was in the United States Army. I joined service in 1951, 67 years ago, when I joined in the United States Army. I lived in Net Lake most of my life when I was a kid. And I always like to say that I joined when I was 17, but I was 18. I had just turned 18 in August. And when I went to the recruiter, I had to get permission from my mother to enlist in the United States Army. And I came home and told her what I did. She didn't agree with that at first. But then the dad was there and he said, well, he's up in that year right now, so if he wants to join and enlist in the United States Army, let's let him do it. So they did. And then what happened is I had to go back to Fort Snelling to get sworn in. And I went back there and they swore me in to the United States Army and gave me a identification on what branch of the service I enlisted in, what they usually do. And they also gave me a number, which in that day they still do, dog tags. And there was a separation between those that enlisted and those that were drafted. The ones that were drafted had a serial number that started with US, and then they had a number. My number started with RA, which meant regular Army, and my number I can still remember was 27358064 to identify myself, in case I had went to combat and I got captured. There, you give only your ID number, which was the number I just gave. I was sent to Fort Lewis, Washington from Minneapolis after being sworn in. And from there, we had to sit till they had us, got all the paperwork done on all of us that had enlisted. And from there, they sent me to Camp Pendleton, California, where I had to stay there again until they found out where they were going to send me for my basic training. And I was there for probably 2 weeks. And while I was there, I got to meet a sergeant, a staff sergeant, that was a native from Honolulu, where I was going to be going, and he called me Little Beaver because I was Native American, and every time we'd fall out, he'd holler, "Come on, Native! Come on, Little Beaver! Time to fall out!" And out we'd go into the field and fall out at attention. And then he finally told us that they were going to send us to Honolulu. And I was going to be stationed at a base they call Schofield Barracks, where I took my basic training for 14 weeks. I trained there for 14 weeks, and after I got through training, they made me a drill instructor to train troops because of what I learned during boot camp. And there was one other thing I was going to mention about that trip to Honolulu, but I forgot what it was. But anyway, I went through my basic training, and I got to be a drill instructor to train troops about combat, what it is to serve while you go overseas and you got in combat. And what it was is how do you protect yourself in combat. You take all kinds of courses, like they teach you how to use a rifle. In those days, you don't call it a gun, you called it a rifle. If you called it a gun, you got criticized for it by the staff sergeant, whoever is in charge of your platoon. So that's another lesson you learn. Another thing that I never knew when I was younger, what discipline was really like. But when I got in the service in the United States Army, I learned what discipline was. And I carried that all my life on what I've learned in the service. In fact, I think my family still thinks I'm a drill instructor sometimes for what I have to say about my military life and how I do things around home here. Because I do a lot of things by the number. Whatever comes first, you have to take care of. You always wait for the good stuff later. And the other thing is after I got through with the being in a cadre, I was separated from that, and they put me into what they call the, I can't remember what the unit was, but what we did at that time is we went into what they call transportation. And what we did at that time is we transported all those people that were coming to Schofield Barracks and showed them tours of the village of Oahu and what to expect while they were there, what the restrictions were, where they were allowed to go, and all these kinds of things. And after I got through serving there in the Transportation Corps, they sent me to the Medical Corps, and I was stationed at what they call Triple Army Hospital, which is right in Honolulu. In fact, you can see it when you drive in Honolulu. You can see Triple Army Hospital up on the side of the mountain, and that's where I was stationed at Triple Army Hospital. And while I was there, what we did, I was what they call the Air Evac Corps. And what happened there is all these guys that were shot up in Korea would go to Tokyo General Hospital, and from there they dressed for several weeks or whatever it took, and from there they'd fly them to Triple Army Hospital, where we'd take care of them in our hospital for whatever period that the doctors called for at that time. And one of the things that I noticed when those soldiers came through that were all wounded, and also Air Force people, anybody that was in the service that served time and was in combat and was wounded, had to come to Triple Army Hospital. And we had to deal with them and take care of them patients that were there. And one of the things I realized is how badly some of those young fellows that came back from Korea were all shot up, came in, we had to take care of them, change their bandages, and work with the nurses in regards to whatever they had us do. And we did everything that we could to try to comfort them. And I really felt sorry for those people, those young guys. And those guys are veterans. And I really feel proud of what they did to serve us while they were in combat. In fact, one day when I came on duty at the Air Evac, we were going to go pick up patients at Hickam Air Force Base, there was one soldier that came through that one group of people that recognized me. And he said to me, "I recognize you as being the cadre that was training us in Schofield Barracks." He said, and he had both of his legs were shot, and he was in a cast, what they call at that time a Y cast. Both legs were in casts, and he told me that when they were out on patrol, he got shot, and they left him. They thought he was dead, and he laid there. He'd lay there during the day, then he'd pull himself at night and hide during the day. And he said he did that, if I can remember right, I think he said that for at least 3 days before he got back to the main line, where they took care of him and sent him to Tokyo. And there's so many things that go on with veterans that they have done while they served in the branch of whatever part of the military they were in. And I'm proud that I'm a veteran. It makes me proud to know that I did serve and I did do things to help those that had to go to combat, although I didn't go myself. And one of the reasons I thought I knew, the reason I didn't go is because my dad was Pete Donald, and I was the only boy in our family besides him. And I think that's one of the reasons that they didn't send me to Korea, because of my background and my family. Pete Donald being my father, and I'm the only boy in the family. In fact, today, when I pass, my name goes with me. There's no one here to carry my name on again in this whole family of the Donald family. And the Donald today are called Donalds because they changed their name way back to a family from Big Nose to Donald. And I'm proud of my name, Big Nose. In fact, I carry that on my car because when I was younger, I was teased a lot about being a big nose. And I knew I wasn't a big nose, but I found out why my name was changed to Donald. And I wouldn't know what else to say about the veteran situation. Only one thing I do know is I was in the National Guard before I joined the Army. And when I went in the National Guard, I came out in a rank as E2 when they discharged me. And when I joined the Army, I went back into the Army, it was a rank as E2. And when I got through with my boot camp, they made me private first class, PFC. And a lot of those guys that trained with me, they said, how did you get to be a PFC already when we just got through with boot camp? And I told them the reason I did is because I was discharged from the National Guard. And shortly after that, I was made a corporal in the United States Army. And that's what I was discharged with, that rank, Corporal Gary Donald, U.S. Army, United States. Other than that, I don't think there's much more that I can say about the veterans, and other than I think that everybody should be proud when they see a veteran and congratulate them for the service that they've served in the United States, protecting us people. I could say us because I know they protect me too, even though I am a veteran. But all the veterans should be commended on their services that they did in the military. And with that, that's about it, all I can say for now. Miigwech.
The Marine Corps was founded on November 10th, 1775. It is on November 10th of every year that our nation, our Corps, and our Marines pay tribute to all that the Marine Corps birthday symbolizes. As one listens to the Marine Corps birthday cadence, you can feel the heartbeat of the legacy nearly 2.5 centuries long. For people who have not served in the military, a military cadence is a traditional call and response song sung by military personnel while running or marching. The Marine Corps mission reflects every Marine's purpose. In essence, our nation is that purpose. In our world, in ourselves, and in our way, there are conflicts, challenges, and obstacles that must be fought confidently and defeated convincingly for our nation to prevail. These looming battles come in many forms and occur on many fronts, but each comes down to a critical choice: to demand victory or accept defeat, to pull together or fall apart, to give in or cave in. It is a decision each Marine conveys to our nation with each battle won. The Marines have a long lineage of defining moments that look back on and serve as a source of great inspiration. One example is the Navajo Code Talkers. Our Navajo brothers were crucial in securing victory over Japan in the World War II, with the ability to provide an unbreakable code necessary to communicate effectively on the battlefield. The Marines are trained to improve, adapt, and overcome any obstacle in whatever situation they are needed. They are the first to fight and are determined to succeed. The Marine Corps War Memorial stands as a symbol of this great nation's esteem for the honored dead of the U.S. Marine Corps. While the statue depicts one of the most iconic photos of World War II, the memorial is dedicated to all Marines who have given their lives in defense of the United States since 1775. The 200-foot veteran memorial has over 58,000 names on it in recognition of those veterans. One of the Marine Corps mottos is Semper Fidelis. Semper Fidelis symbolizes the lifelong commitment held by every Marine for the Corps and for America, a promise that is reciprocated by the Corps to all Marines.
Norman Adams, United States Marine Corps, 1972 to 1974. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in December 1971, entered active duty in June 1972. I went to boot camp at San Diego, California. I did not serve in Vietnam, and the reason why I enlisted was to follow the example of others before me, from our band, particularly Dan Morrison Jr., Floyd Morrison, Hank and Jean, Lauren Connor, Shannon King, Ralph Wakeup, and a host of others that I hope I didn't miss anybody's name. Pete Isham. When I was at the 7th Engineer Battalion, when I first got there after engineer school, I had met a sergeant whose name was Fred Rose, and he asked me where I was from. I told him Minnesota. He goes, "Oh, Minnesota." He says, "By any chance, do you know Dan Morrison?" And I says, "Danny Boy?" "Yeah, I know Danny Boy." He said, "He's one of my role models growing up." And so he had the highest words and praise for Danny Boy. He said that they served together in Vietnam. Dan was a strong leader, very courageous and brave, had his head together. Everybody listened to him. And, you know, that's kind of the Danny Boy that I knew at the time too. And, you know, him and Hawk were kind of like my, Lauren Connor they were kind of my role models in high school. I think I was in 7th grade. They were, you know, seniors, and they both played basketball, and I would chase balls for them and things of that nature, and watching track and field, high jumping, and watching them in baseball. Hawk was just a great pitcher. You know, all these things. And anyways, they were my role models. And while I was in the Marine Corps, I also met Floyd Morrison, who had just come out of Vietnam out of the time, I do believe. And I went to spend the weekend with him. And Chang King was there. And, you know, we'd see each other quite frequently and, you know, go do things on the weekends and things like that. But, you know, the Marine Corps taught me a lot of good things. They reinforced the values that I had grown up with through my mom and dad, you know, hard work and, you know, being honest and ethical and things of that nature. But more so, the Marines built confidence in me. They built an attitude in me that so I could accept challenges throughout my life. Strength, of course, was, you know, one of the major things that I got out of the Marine Corps. You know, I love my country, patriotism. I served my country with honor, got out with an honorable discharge, and if I had to do it all over again, yes, I would do it. I love the Marine Corps, and I just wanted to say Happy Veterans Day to all veterans, and you know, particularly the Vietnam veterans, Jerome and John Connor and all the other guys that I missed, Bill Whiteman, things of that nature. You know. Anyways, Happy Veterans Day to all, and Semper Fi to my brothers.
Bonjour, Anin. Beba Wewe Tongue Edition cause, Ginyu Indodem. My Ojibwe name is Wolves Howling All Around You. My clan is Golden Eagle. My name is Donald Chosa, and I wanted to talk about my service in the U.S. Marine Corps. In high school, I joined the ROTC in 10th and 11th grade. Because of this, when I signed up for the U.S. Marine Corps, I joined at a higher rank as Lance Corporal instead of PFC, or Private First Class. I graduated, then worked for a while, but realized I needed something to teach me responsibility and self-control, and I needed a regular paycheck. My sister Fran encouraged me to join the U.S. Marine Corps, so I did. I went to boot camp in Camp Pendleton. Then right after boot camp, I went to school for telecommunications and also as a radio operator. I also went to electronics school. There were conflicts in Beirut during my time of service. I was a watch supervisor at the Telecommunications Center in Camp Pendleton, California. We received classified messages which were printed out on coded ticker tape. We had to deliver the coded tape messages in a locked military briefcase to the generals and other higher-up military personnel on the base. I was also a trained operator and electrician. During field operations, I would go first to put electrical wiring in the field tents for radio operation and make sure the portable field radios were operational. I'm going to do this paragraph again, but I'll keep this. So, I was also a trained radio operator and electrician. During field operations, I'll start again. I was also a trained radio operator and electrician. During field operations, I would go first to put electrical wiring in the field tents for radio operation and make sure the portable field radios were operational. I went on field operations about 2 months out of every year. After I was discharged, I got a job working for the Army Corps of Engineers in Portland, Oregon, and I got the job because of my military service and experience. My job was to update military architectural contracts and budgets from around the world using computers and an OCR machine, which was a predecessor to today's scanners. This was a great experience at that time before computers were really in use. I was able to use my military training for college credits and job experience. I would recommend any young person to serve in the military because it gives you so many advantages later in life. Miigwech.
The U.S. Navy is a seaborne branch of the military of the United States. The Navy maintains, trains, and equips combat-ready naval forces capable of winning wars, deterring aggression, and maintaining the freedom of the seas. U.S. Navy personnel expertly operate virtually every type of military equipment in a country's arsenal, everything from Humvees to aircraft carriers. Founded on October 13, 1775, the Navy has the following main components, all of which ensure it can take on the enemy anywhere in the world. Surface fleet. This consists of vessels of all sizes. The Navy has ships suited for every waterborne military mission. Submarine fleet, known as the Silent Service. Submarines give the Navy the ability to arrive on scene before the enemy is aware they're on the way. Naval Aviation Wing. In addition to the surface and submarine warfare capabilities, the Navy can provide firepower and support from the air as well. The Navy's aviation contingent consists of helicopters, fighter, attack jets, surveillance, transport and cargo aircraft, and unmanned aerial vehicles, UAV. The Navy was a major participant in the Vietnam War, the blockade of Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Through the use of ballistic missile submarines became an important aspect of the United States' nuclear strategic deterrence policy. The U.S. Navy conducted various combat operations in the Persian Gulf. And the U.S. Navy conducted various combat operations in the Persian Gulf against Iran in 1987 and 1988. Most notably, Operation Praying Mantis. The Navy was extensively involved in Operation Urgent Fury, Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Deliberate Force, Operation Allied Force, Operation Desert Fox, and Operation Southern Watch. The Navy's mission is to deliver combat-ready naval forces to win conflicts and wars while maintaining security and deterrence through sustained forward presence. It is the largest and most powerful Navy in the world.
Tell me your name.
Stanley James Day.
And what branch of service were you in?
The United States Navy.
So why did you choose the Navy?
Well, I was living out in Washington State with my sister and brother-in-law and their kids. And I had to hitchhike home for my little brother got killed in a car accident. And when I got back, it was too late to go back to school for that year. And I was 2 years behind anyway. So when I turned 18, I got my draft notice. And it kind of scared me because I thought, I didn't want to kill anybody personally, face to face. And so I was wondering what I could do, and somebody mentioned I could talk to our recruiter. And so I did. I think I talked to a Marine Corps recruiter, and he said that it was probably a possibility that I should talk to a Navy recruiter and see if they could make a change, which I did. And I had a good job. I was high lead logging at the time, making really good money for a kid. And so I went and talked to the Navy recruiter, and he deferred my enlistment until late September, which would give me all summer to work, which I did, and that was good. And it turned out pretty good.
What are some of the highlights that you remember?
I had some good boxing skills, and it was really funny because another guy in my company I was a welterweight and he was a flyweight, a professional. And so he was training me in the evenings outside of our barracks, and all the other company commanders would come and watch us. And it was really funny because I was way faster than the flyweight, and he should have been way faster than me. But anyway, I never got a fight. All the company commanders thought they didn't have anybody that could beat me, so I couldn't get a fight. So that part. Another part was when we took all the test. It was like a week's testing, and my friend and I, we both got letters from the Department of the Navy saying that we qualified for officer training school. And he was from Portland, and he finished the 11th grade, and I had finished the 9th grade, the 9th grade. And I asked if that would be a problem, and they said, not if you pass the test. But anyway, about 3 weeks later, we both got letters on the same day from the Department of the Navy saying that because we had juvenile records, they would never allow us to be commissioned officers. So that kind of dashed those plans. But it was a blessing in disguise, because what I was going to go into would be a pilot, a fighter pilot, hopefully, and just for the money, I guess, and the prestige and the pay grade, I guess. But anyway, after it was all over, I realized that I hurt people playing or defending myself, and that bothers me every time that happened. And I thought, if I was a fighter pilot, I would have been strafing villages with women and elders and children, and maybe bombing them. And if that would have happened, and I would have had to do that, I don't think I would have lived very long after that, because I take stuff like that to heart. I can't do something like that. I wouldn't. But that was it.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say?
Oh yeah. I got married out of boot camp, and I was still in the gung-ho stage, and I thought I would make more money if I was in Vietnam and I could support my wife better. But I talked to one of the commanding officers on base and said that I wanted to transfer to Vietnam, and he asked me what I was looking for, and I said I'd like to be on the gunboats on the Mekong Delta. And he was quiet for a while, then he said, do you know what the life expectancy is of sailors on the Mekong Delta? And I said, no. He said, it's not even an hour. So that was a blessing in disguise. That I didn't, I probably wouldn't have made it, but I was going to do my part.
My name is Gene Goodsky, and my real name is Tetegiguneb, which means a hawk. It's a northern harrier with it's got a white spot on the back, at the end of his back and the beginning of his tail feathers. And that's my grandpa gave me the name. The first branch I went in when I was 17, what they call a kiddie cruise, and I asked for construction work. And at that time they didn't have any billets. They said, just go ahead and sign up, and whenever, by the time that you get to boot camp, or by the time a billet will open up for the CB. And nothing happened. At the end of my enlistment, they came to me and they said, we have a billet for CBs. I said, no, I'm going home. So I've come home for 2 years, and I worked as a carpenter for the housing. And then Joe Morrison, he says, Gene, he said they got this offering where you can join the Seabees, the constructions, and they'll give you the rank of E5, which is the second class. And I was thinking, yeah, why not? We would try it. So we went down to we went and got our physical in Minneapolis, and Joe got turned down, and I went on. I landed down in San Diego boot camp, 8 weeks, and I came home, and I spent the first 4 years on a attacked aircraft carrier, a troop carrier, and it had helicopters in it, and it carried Marines. What they do is bring the Marines on a ship, and like if we went overseas, we'd take a whole battalion of them. And when you get over there, then they'd start airlifting them back. We had quite a few operations there, what they called counterinsurgency. They'd take all the troops from the ship, they'd land them way behind the enemy lines, and they'd come forward. So they'd have them boxed in, and they put some on each side in a waterfront. So then they'd all come closing in. And then after that, then I went into regular service. I went into boot camp, the CB boot camp, which was 10 weeks, and 2 weeks on a rifle range. Then I come home, and while I was home, this medicine man from Lac La Croix, he had a dream about me. And I came to him, I had my full battle dress on and with a rifle hanging over my shoulder, and there was a wolf on this side and a spirit on this side. And the wolf spoke to him. He said, I have to go out there to Giganeb because he's going to be going on some dangerous places, and I have to take him through them places. So that's a picture of that wolf up there. I have wolves all over, because that's my dog. But anyway, he took me, and he brought me home. And I could have got killed about 5 or 6 times, different times, but I made it. Anyway, I was over there for from December of '68, December 10th, '68 to January 10th, 1970. I served 2 Christmases over there. When I come home, it was from 130 degrees tropical weather. She's sweating in the shade. And when I come home, can you imagine, what was it, about 20 below? From 130 to 20 below. Even I had long johns on. They picked me up at the airport, and I drove home, and just first time driving, and man, I was. And pretty soon, Kurt, he was only about 3 or 4 years, about 4 years old. He said, "Dad," I said, "Yeah." He said, "There's a choo-choo train behind us." There's a whole long stringer of cars, because there's only a two-way road between Minneapolis and all the way home. So I pulled over and let all them cars. There must have been about 20 cars. A choo-choo train, he says. Then after that, I was able to pick up speed.
That was Vietnam, huh?
Huh?
That was when you went to Vietnam?
Yeah,
huh?
when I was on my way home, when you guys come pick me up at the airport in Minneapolis.
Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
Each August 4th, the United States Coast Guard celebrates its birthday. The Coast Guard is one of America's 5 armed forces. Since 1790, the United States Coast Guard has kept the nation's waterways safe, playing a critical role in national security. The Coast Guard's core values are honor, respect, and devotion to duty. The motto of the Coast Guard is Semper Paratus, which in Latin means always ready. The Coast Guard is a maritime, military, multi-mission service unique among the U.S. military branches for having a maritime law enforcement mission with jurisdiction in both domestic and international waters, and a federal regulatory agency mission as part of its duties. It operates under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security during peacetime and can be transferred to the U.S. Department of Navy under the Department of Defense by the U.S. President at any time. The Coast Guard's participation in ambiguous activity during World War II was perhaps the most important war-related job the service performed. Incredibly, the Coast Guard fully manned more than 350 naval ships, including 76 landing ship tanks, 21 cargo and attack cargo ships. The Coast Guard is responsibility for the safety, security, and stewardship of our nation's waterways. We protect those on sea, protect the nation from threats delivered by sea, and protect the sea itself.
Now who are we? Air Force. Proud to be. Air Force. The mighty, mighty Air Force.
The United States Air Force defended the United States in air and space. The Air Force birthday is celebrated on September 18th of every year. This year, when the Air Force was officially separated from the United States Army in 1947, prior to that year, the Air Force was part of the Army and was known as the Armed Air Force. The mission of the United States Air Force is to fly, fight, and win in the air, space, and cyberspace. To achieve that mission, the United States Air Force had a vision that states, the United States Air Force is trusted and reliable joint partner with our sisters services known for integrity in all activities, including supporting and joint missions first and foremost. As the United States assumed its place as a global superpower during and after the war, so did too the role of the Air Corps transformed. First into the Army Air Force in 1941 and finally as a separate branch known as the U.S. Air Force in 1947. As the U.S. and the Soviet Union settled into the Cold War, the Air Force took the lead in developing increasingly sophisticated weapons platforms merely hinted at during World War II. The Air Force took the lead in developing increasingly sophisticated weapons platforms merely hinted at during World War II, which exponentially increased the capabilities of national defense. This resulted in both spectacular achievements as well as national tragedy, as it evolved and grew into a truly strategic combat and defense force. The Korean War saw the full power of the jet fighter combat, aerial medical evacuations, and aerial resupply, while the Vietnam conflict featured close air support, dogfights with air-to-air missiles, search and rescue, and massive multi-year bombing operations. The Air Force took the lead in extending the nation's defense into the final frontier of space, establishing early warning networks of aircraft and intercontinental ballistic missiles while developing rocketry and spacecraft technology that allowed us to land men on the moon and place satellites in orbit around the Earth. Today, the Air Force continues its traditions of innovation, constantly striving to produce ever more sophisticated platforms in air and space to protect the nation from those who would seek to do us harm. As the world and its threats continue to evolve, so too will the U.S. Air Force in anticipating and meeting those threats to ensure that our liberties are sustained.
My name is William B. Tibbetts, Jr. I was in the United States Air Force from September 24th, 1954. I retired on the 31st of January 1975. 20 years plus. My first basic training was taken at San Antonio, Texas. From there I went to a schooling in Francis C. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming. I was there 18 months. Supply. They held me back as an instructor there to complete my 18 months there. From there I went to a base in Châteauroux, France. I was there 3 years. A supply man, warehousing. We had a big depot there. I took a consecutive tour down to Nouassour Air Force Base, Morocco, which was at Casablanca. met my wife of 63 years there. She was an Air Force brat, that's what I call her. One of the most loving person I ever met in my life. We got married there on August 27th, 1958. I met Gwen on the 6th of July that same year. I was a man in charge of a small, we issued out Jeeps and things like that, motor pool. When we left there in November of '58, we went to Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota, Rapid City. We spent 5 years there. Again, I was in supply. I run a priority section as an E4. When they decided to disband the priority section, I went to and was a orderly room clerk for a while. Then got orders to Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii. I was in charge of the base laundry, which come under the supply. I did that maybe 2 months. And then a general's aide come in and said they needed another aide. I said, what the heck. So I went to work for a 2-star general named Glenn W. Martin. I worked for him for 9 months. He shipped out, could not take me. So then I went to, he said in that evening, he said, Bill, he said, I can put you in any job you want in the Air Force. I said, yeah, I'd like to be a loadmaster on an airplane. In the meantime, Brigadier General Brown, Grover C. Brown, who worked for the Navy, but he was an Air Force general, asked me to come over to his house, which I did, and he hired me. I was his enlisted aide for 2.5 years. He was assigned to the Pentagon, and again they could not transfer me because they didn't allow aides there. Major General J.T. Robbins, a World War II fighter ace of the Pacific Theater who flew P-38s, picked me up. I worked for him as a senior enlisted aide for 6 years, maybe a little bit longer. From there, we went from Hickam to Bergstrom Air Force Base, Texas, right out of Austin. He was the commander of 12th Air Force. We were there 2 years. Went to Langley Field where he made his 3rd star and had me promoted to Master Sergeant. during that period of time. He was the Vice Commander of TAC Air Force. And we were there maybe another year and a half, 2 years, something like that. I can't remember the exact times. From there we went to Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, where he was the Vice Commander of Air Command with his 3rd star. I left him there and went to Utapao Air Force Base, Thailand, and was in charge of 7 warehouses, 365 airmen, and I was there 9 months when a General McKee, he was leaving Guam, called me up and said, "Bill," he said, "how would you like to go back to Texas?" I was there 3 months short of my yearly tour. I got a call one morning. It said, "Be on the plane tomorrow morning. You're coming home." So I quickly cleared the base, got on the plane, and met General McKee for the first time in my life at Randolph Field, Texas, where he was a 3-star general. I thought he was a 2-star when he hired me. And he was the commander of Air Training Command. I worked for him almost 7 months, and then in the meantime, when I got back from Thailand, I got orders again back to Thailand. I said, no way. That was after I left McKee. I said, no. They promoted me to E8, which was a senior master sergeant. I turned that down and retired. That was in December of '74. A little story there when I was with General Robbins. He used to fly a little T-39 from base to base. We were at places we weren't supposed to be, and I still cannot say where I was. As his aide, I took care of the man as if you ever watched Patton, you seen his aide come in and take care of him, fix his breakfast and stuff like that. It was a good life. I enjoyed it. But we were flying one day from Bergstrom Air Force Base, and we were headed to Guam, Anderson Field in Guam. He said, "Bill, come up here and sit down beside me here and get in the co-pilot's chair." So I did. He said, "Grab hold of that control there." He says, "How does that feel?" I said, "Well, I feel like a car, like you're driving a car." He says, "Right." And he got up and left me there by myself in the cockpit. I ain't never been so scared in all my life. My hands turned white from hanging onto that control. He come back and I said, "General, don't you ever do that to me again." He kind of laughs. He says, "Why?" I says, "I ain't never flew a jet before." I said, "I've had a little bit of training in a single engine airplane." I says, when I was first in the service, I wanted to get a license. He kind of laughed. He said, I just had to pee and it was on autopilot anyway. Another time I was with him, I don't remember what base we were going to, but we were flying over the ocean. There was a boat, a ship down below. He said, watch this. He took that thing and he started diving at that ship, scraping it. He said, I'm going to scrape that ship. I said, General, you ain't supposed to do that. He said, who's going to chew me out? So I just sat there and watched him. But he took that thing, dove at that plane, that ship, and he was having a ball, not me. That was one of the things. Another thing, we were leaving Langley Field, and he started taking off, and I was sitting in the back with the colonel. Colonel Peoples was his name, Faubourg. And he took off the runway there, and the runway ended right over the ocean. We took off, and he started climbing, and all of a sudden he pushed that thing down, and he started right for the ocean. That colonel turned pure white. Well, I'd ridden enough with the general to know, well, at least something happened. He got up out of his seat and he went up there, General, what the hell are you doing? He said, you're not supposed to do that. The general said, well, a flock of ducks. He said, I don't want to hit them. He says, I dove under them. But that's basically what I did all my tours. 21 years, 20 plus years in the Air Force. I started at San Antonio, Texas, south end, and retired on the north end of San Antonio. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you to all our veterans, all the people that watched this video. Although we couldn't attend in person, we'd like to say thank you for all that you've done for us. I'd like to personally thank our veterans for your service to our country and to keep freedom and democracy free. Thank you.